Zenless Zone Zero is Hoyoverse's latest free-to-play gacha game, offering a fast-paced action RPG experience with flashy combat and a unique aesthetic, all wrapped in lighthearted vibes. It's available on PC, PlayStation, iOS, and Android. And while the game shines in many areas, it also has some flaws that might turn off some gamers. Throughout this review, I aim to provide a balanced perspective based on my personal experience. Let's dive in. The game is set in New Eridu, a post-apocalyptic world where monsters run rampant due to the chaotic supernatural dimensions called Hollows, which spawn ethereals. You can choose to play as Bell or Wise, the sibling duo behind the legendary proxy Phaethon. For context, proxies guide people through the Hollows, helping them achieve their objectives and safely escape to avoid corruption. No matter who you pick, the other sibling remains a key character in the story. The game doesn't take itself too seriously, delivering both subtle and over-the-top comedy throughout the story. With this game, you can expect pretty outrageous plots straight out of a fantasy comedy anime. I bet the writers had a blast creating these wild plots. While the story doesn't start with high-stakes conflicts like Genshin or Wuthering Waves, there's a good chance it will escalate with future updates. Lore aside, Zenless Zone Zero's world is significantly scaled down compared to some of its predecessors in the genre. It's not an open-world game, and exploration is limited to hub areas. You might find some treasure boxes, but don't expect vast areas to roam. The good news is that you don't have to explore a vast open world to collect chests or some puzzles. The bad news is, well, you can't explore a vast world to collect chests or some puzzles. The visuals are unique and highly stylized, with bouncy and exaggerated animations that add to the game's charm. For me, it's a step up from previous MiHoYo games and other gacha games for that matter. However, like many gacha games, it's filled with lengthy dialogues to progress the story. This can feel like a chore and might even make you lose interest. Thankfully, ZZZ mixes typical cinematic cutscenes with a comic strip style of storytelling and portrait-style dialogue. This makes the story quests more engaging, or at least makes the long dialogues more bearable. And if you're only interested in the combat, you are free to skip the dialogues for the most part. Personally, I dig the comic strip cutscenes. They really carry the otherwise slow early game pacing. Honestly, I am even low-key looking forward to them. I must say that the voice acting in the game is S tier.
Found it.
Whoa, it's our lucky day!
That's my strong box!
The actors nail the characters' personalities and quirks perfectly. Their superb performances evoke emotions that harmonize beautifully with the visual movements. You'll notice this early on when you start interacting with the Cunning Hair's members. Overall, the voice acting makes the cutscenes and story progression fun and engaging. As mentioned earlier, this game is highly stylized, but there's also quite a lot of diversity among the playable characters. We've got hot waifus, furries, lollies, cute maids, hot maids with shark tails, and they even come in different colors. Okay, the last one is an NPC, but hey, even the NPCs in this game are well designed and stand out in their own right. What I love about the character design is how much thought they put into it while still maintaining a lot of creative freedom. Heck, even the weapons of some characters in the game can go pretty crazy sometimes. And did I mention mechs?
It took a while to get this thing moving. Leave it to me! Come on, you punk!
Go, President!
In terms of sound effects, the hits, parries, slow motion, and even getting hit are spot on.
I'm here!
Let's go!
The perfect parry, in particular, sounds incredibly satisfying whenever you manage to pull it off. Heck, your character sometimes even yells at you to dodge.
A sneak attack! Watch out!
The in-game music is also thematic and fits its world very well. I especially like the gacha theme and dungeon OSTs. Admittedly, these aren't the kinds of tracks you'd probably want to listen to during a long commute. Or maybe they are. After all, music taste is one of the most subjective topics out there. The game's controls are not complicated at all. Since it's optimized for mobile, there aren't a lot of buttons to press. If you've played other gacha games, it's pretty much the same thing. Plus, there are even fewer things to worry about outside of combat. If you're new to gacha games, you can ease into the controls fairly easily. The user interface is designed logically, with the most commonly used options immediately available. Some important menus are also accessible while roaming around the hub area. However, like all gacha games, there are a ridiculous number of menus, so it takes some time to get used to. The combat mechanics are hands down the most engaging aspect of ZZZ. It's a fast-paced, flashy system that rewards quick reflexes and well-timed switches. There's a perfect dodge mechanic that slows time, allowing for counter hits and granting invulnerability during these moves. There's also the perfect assist mechanic that provides evasive or defensive maneuvers based on the character. Triggering some of the most kick-ass and visually appealing animations in combat. Additionally, there's the daze and chain attacks system, letting players stun enemies, switch to another party member, and trigger a special attack animation while doing so. Apart from those, there are also nuances like the anomaly build-up mechanic that ties into the elemental aspects of different characters. Some characters even have unique combat mechanics for tag teaming with another team member. But despite these intricate mechanics, the combat feels a little underwhelming due to the lackluster opponents. The monsters are kind of dumb, they rarely attack, and when they do, it's not punishing at all. It gets a little better as you progress further in the game and you unlock hard mode and end game content scenarios. In my 30+ hours of playthrough, only the Hollow Zero and Shiyu Defense stages offer any real challenge. And for those contents, random button smashing is not going to cut it anymore. You're going to have to be a little mindful of your skill timings and switches to keep your DPS up. Nuances like daze mechanics, anomaly buildup, optimal chain attack sequences, and your character's unique skill mechanics will all play a part in clearing those stages. To be fair, even Genshin's or Wuwa's open-world monsters are pretty easy too. Still, the monsters, especially in the early game, could use a little bump in aggression. I also feel the game does too much hand-holding, specifically with the chain attacks. Here's a hot take. How about giving players the option to turn off the auto-chain attack system and let them figure out the timing themselves? Hardcore players would love the challenge, while casual players could still enjoy the ease of play. I mean, think about it. It would be pretty satisfying to pull off a combo like you would in fighting games. However, what really drags down ZZZ's gameplay, in my opinion, is the deep integration of the story quest with the Hollow Deep Dive system, or TV system for short. The TV system has the potential for great roguelike gameplay, with puzzle-solving mechanics and even some tower defense elements later on. It's fun, but it can also become stale. As a result, it can quickly feel like a chore, especially during story quests. Then again, exploring the open world of Genshin or Wuwa can also get pretty tiring and feel like a chore too. Ultimately, any game mechanic can get pretty tiring once you've seen it enough times. But what bothers me more is how the TV system is used as a medium for storytelling in the game. I mean, take a look at this. That was me infiltrating a train after setting up a trap to slow it down. And you'll see a lot more of that as you progress through the story. Everything is left to your imagination, serving as an abstract representation of what's happening in the quest. In my opinion, this works well for the Hollow Zero content scenario. However, I think the rally mode content would be better suited for storytelling. It would create a more seamless transition between combat and story. Plus, they already have great comic book style sequences. Having more of those would likely make the story mode much more interesting. But on the other hand, I'm just a random guy on YouTube. I won't pretend to know how game development works or the budget that goes into it. Hoyoverse likely had a team of professionals guiding this decision. In any case, it's deeply integrated into the game. You either liked it from day one and you'll never get tired of it, or it will grow on you over time. Or maybe it'll serve as a constant annoyance moving forward. At the end of the day, this aspect of the game is pretty subjective. Like any other gacha game, ZZZ's player progression revolves around the daily grind for better gear. This means acquiring materials to upgrade your W engines, the game's equivalent to weapons in other games. There's also the endless pursuit of better substats on your disk drives, essentially artifacts, echoes, or armor equivalent from other games. Then, there are daily tasks to acquire polychromes, which you can exchange for master tapes or encrypted master tapes to roll on the gacha banner. This involves completing side quests and commissions daily. Ultimately, all these efforts are aimed at acquiring and building characters to form a team capable of handling the game's toughest challenges. And since gacha games are time-gated, completing all this will take weeks and even months of daily gameplay. And that is if you're only building a couple of characters, so yeah, it's actually a never-ending gameplay. ZZZ's multiplayer element is very limited. Currently, it is only available to the arcade minigames and Notorious Hunt game content. In this mode, you can't swap characters. Instead, you team up with others, each using a single character to fight bosses. A word of warning though. Clearing the notorious hunt mode in multiplayer will consume one of your 3 weekly attempts. Zenless Zone Zero's gacha system is similar to other gacha games. There are standard and limited time banners that you can roll for, either by grinding daily or using real-world money. I won't go into more detail, but here's a quick rundown. If you're familiar with gacha games, you already know the drill. Spend responsibly. And if you're new to gacha games and think the system is a money grab, well, I don't blame you. Just don't spend anything or envy the limited time characters because they're usually overpowered. I will say this though. F2P players probably experience the game as it's meant to be played. Your characters might be weaker than the limited ones, but they can still tackle the hardest content. Plus, you'll still get some limited characters just by playing. Repeat after me. Roll for waifus and not for meta. Roll for waifus and not for meta. Zenless Zone Zero is a pretty solid game with unique visuals, quirky animations, and flashy combat gameplay. But it's not for everyone. If you love fast-paced, button-smashing action RPG games with a little bit of roguelike gameplay, then this game is perfect for you. If you are a casual gamer and find open-world exploration a little tedious, then this game is also for you. But if you love exploring vast open-world games, then you're probably better off playing Wuthering Waves or Genshin Impact. And if you like games that make you sweat, this game probably isn't for you. At least not yet, in the current version of the game. Story lovers might also find this game offers a different vibe than other gacha games. Though, let's be honest, most gacha game stories are pretty mid. For mobile gamers who want top-notch action on a small screen, this game is probably one of the best options currently available. Overall, I would rate Zenless Zone Zero a solid 7 with room for improvement in future updates. It did quite a lot of things right, but also has some issues that might be deal breakers for some players. And given that it is a gacha game, let's say that its monetization aspects are pretty bad. I will, however, say that in this current version of the game, there's very little incentive for OP characters. And despite these drawbacks, the core gameplay aspect is very smooth and rich with combat nuances. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you find this video helpful. You can also leave a comment if you agree or disagree with my review. See you on the next video.